It all starts and ends with the pharmaceutical industry, which creates charitable front groups. Both fund university research, doling out money to whichever researchers promise the results they want. For example, a team might be given pharmaceutical money, and in return, they'll set up studies to prove that smoking bans are good for health, or that they're not terrible for small businesses. The numerous statistical tricks they can use to achieve this will likely be featured in another video. If the research team didn't come back with the predetermined results the pharmaceutical industry wants, their careers would basically be over. So that, along with the giant pile of money waiting for them, is a pretty good motivator for university researchers to do what's expected of them. State health departments, or in other words, you the taxpayer, also fund these types of university studies. Universities can siphon some of these funds into additional smoking ban-related grant projects as well. The pharmaceutical industry's front groups also fund national nonprofits. To be clear, nonprofit means the organization as an entity doesn't make a profit, but that doesn't mean its employees don't get paid. They do get paid. A lot. Groups like the ACS have been known to receive more in donations annually from pharmaceuticals and chemical companies than they do from individual donors. Since they don't want their main sources of funding cut off, it's not surprising these ABC charities are pretty much obligated to do the pharmaceutical industry's bidding. With smoking bans, this could mean putting pressure on lawmakers. Funding studies, again with predetermined results. Conducting polls of their members to pass off as popular demand. Even flying people in from other states to work in so-called local chapters. Local chapters, in turn, direct members to engage in various activities, including commenting their support posing as an average citizen in smoking ban-related news articles. And stacking online polls. They may even go so far as to crowd public meetings to, for example, demand some small town's parks go smoke-free. A small town meeting packed with a mob can be pretty intimidating, especially when no one realizes the mob's getting paid, and they're from another state. ABC charities at both levels have also been known to put pressure on state lawmakers, encouraging their paid members to call or email them daily. And speaking of lawmakers, the pharmaceutical industry earns their servitude by giving them massive campaign donations, making them extremely likely to vote in favor of bans. Historically, the lawmakers who do aren't very likely to be invited back by voters to serve additional terms, but by then, the damage has been done. Both pharmaceuticals and their front groups fund supposedly grassroots activist groups in a process known as astroturfing. With pharmaceutical funding, an astroturf activist group can hire PR firms and issue press releases to gain access to the news. They also get the resources to pay volunteers to take action on social media, polls, and comment on news articles, blogs, basically all over the internet. The group and its volunteers also put pressure on lawmakers. At the same time, taxpayer and/or pharmaceutical money can be used by state health departments, grant-funded researchers, universities, national and local nonprofits, and astroturf activist groups to access the media. These combined actions are designed to create the illusion of widespread public support, regardless of reality. When the resulting smoking ban causes a disruption of smokers' routines, hundreds of thousands flock to buy nicotine gum or other nicotine replacement therapies, or NRTs, thus netting the pharmaceutical industry a huge return on their initial investment. Then comes the true purpose behind bans, the establishment of state-sponsored quit lines. The government, meaning you the taxpayer, becomes perpetually obligated to purchase large quantities of nicotine gum and other pharmaceutical products. State by state, this nets the pharmaceutical industry hundreds of millions of dollars, and not just once, but over and over again, in a process called rent-seeking. This has been repeated state by state, and as a result, pharmaceutical NRTs have become a multi-billion-dollar industry. And that's why we have smoking bans, so that you're forced to give the pharmaceutical industry money without even knowing it. As you can see, it's all pretty complicated. It'd be a lot simpler if lawmakers just forced everyone to give pharmaceuticals money directly out of their paychecks, but that wouldn't really be good for PR. The mentality is, add enough steps in between, and people will be too confused to notice what's really going on. Having all these additional steps in place also opens a wide avenue of possibilities. Different groups can now use university research to further their goals, pointing to what they claim are impartial studies to prove whatever point they're trying to make. State legislatures can do the same, or they can use the media, or both. Or universities could point to studies conducted by nonprofits. Activist groups could point to studies conducted by both nonprofits and universities. Legislatures can point to paid volunteers and claim public support for a smoking ban in the media. Or nonprofits and activist groups can point to the media to pretend they have public support. An activist group could use its pharmaceutical resources to convince legislatures there's enough public support to ban, say, vaping in public parks, using university and nonprofit studies, their own paid volunteers, and the media. The possibilities are basically endless, but the end goal is the same: protect and encourage the taxpayer funding of the pharmaceutical industry via the sale of NRTs by any means necessary. Every new anti-smoking and anti-vaping law temporarily boosts NRT sales, which is why we have smoking bans. It's also the reason why college smoking bans often include vaping and chewing tobacco, but never nicotine gum. And it's the driving force behind all the recent anti-vaping hysteria. It's actually not hysteria at all. It's a pre-planned, tried, and tested strategy to protect this system. Individual members of ABC Charities and AstroTurf groups might not be aware of it, but higher-ups in every link in this chain know. If nobody uses NRTs anymore and just vapes instead, this entire house of cards will fall apart.